sitting here with Kerry Rhodes and AnnaLynne McCord. You both were just in a recently published documentary called The Medicine. And so, we've already been getting into it already. And so I really just want to first acknowledge the work that both of you have done and like honor the fact that you went through this process. I know that it's never easy to face the truth of who we are. So I just want to first acknowledge that and just kind of lead in with a little bit of backstory about what brought you down to Costa Rica in 2017 to drink ayahuasca.
Cool. So, I came on the journey to try this medicine with absolutely no idea what I was getting myself into. I am very close with the producers, Fars and 2C and Colette Betty, and Colette had taken a trip to Costa Rica with a friend who was kinda like, "Come down here with me." Colette was having kind of a moment. She'd lost her father a few years back, and he was her closest person in the world, and she's just having a really difficult time grieving that and that loss, and she just needed to get away. Her friend, Brandy, said, "Come to Costa Rica. Let's do a retreat. Let's do ayahuasca." And Colette was just so she just took this step that really wasn't something that anyone in our close friend group had done. And she came back, and I was just saying, she had a spark. She had something that some light that was flickering that had come back into her world, and everybody noticed it. I noticed it. The people, close to her noticed it. People not even very close to her were like, "Is something? Did you change your hair?" It's always we think you women we think you cut your hair. And so there was a process there, probably maybe like a 12 to 16-month period of time where she then went back several times and and started bringing the troops. And then she got the idea to do this documentary and Farzan as well, and they decided they were going to tell this story, and they needed someone who's a little skeptical of the whole process, and I was like, "Your friend, me." So that was that was a big part of it. It was seeing the transformation in their lives and Colette specifically, and just being like, I knew her and now I know her in a different way and I like the new way. Really, in my mind I told this whole wonderful story of how I was so interested in the neuroscience of the possibilities of the neural experience of ayahuasca, and so I'd done all this research on DMT, and I was just piling my little brain full of data. I'm a total nerd. I love all that stuff. So the story of how I got there in the world of telling stories is quite different than what probably brought me there from the inside. And I think that that's more important to the overall. I figured it out in hindsight, but to me, if I really am giving the story the truth and integrity it deserves, my inner self was crying and begging to be seen and heard, frozen under a lake of ice, a lake of ice made of severe disassociation from systematic trauma, sexual abuse, domestic abuse, psychological, emotional, every kind of abuse, and perpetrated by people who are also victims of abuse. Like that is what happens. Hurting people hurt other people, and the compassion I have for them, the love I have for them, the heartbreak I feel for them, all is this incredible experience that if you open yourself up and you do the work, you can have as a result of taking the journey of ayahuasca. And I think that that is a major factor in getting me to this place. And again, the work I do, it's not take a drink and you fix yourself. That's what everyone thinks, the doctor said to take this pill. It's like you actually have to change your habits. You have to do stuff like there's a saying in Christian religion, faith without works is dead. I I think that it's very true to medicine without works is dead. Meditation, medication without works is dead. Like you can't just think that taking something or doing something one time, just continuing your patterns is going to actually evoke transformation. You have to have integrity within yourself, and you have to meet it halfway. And I am thankful to say that I am up for the challenge, and it's a practice, and but I definitely got to where I am today, detached from the stories of this world in the way that I am, with a gratitude for what they can teach me because of ayahuasca.
Getting out of the matrix.
Out of the
so to
matrix,
say,
baby.
Right? Gotta get out of the matrix. Right?
What is it? It's an amazing quote that says, wisdom says I'm nothing, love says I'm everything. And that's
And life exists in between.
life exists in between. The existence that I experienced. It's what I saw in ayahuasca. I didn't understand at the time, and I was quite angry about it. But now that I understand it, it's a relief to be nothing, and it's lovely to be everything. So
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. And Kerry, your story is a little different. You found your way there. Former NFL football player, and
Right.
I'd love to just go into that a little bit. What brought you to ayahuasca?
Yeah, it's similar. I mean, it's similar stories. We met, we got introduced to the medicine through the same people, the same friends. So she clarified that. I think we're good on that part of it. But yeah, for me personally, it was until I started doing the research on it, because I was very skeptical at first as well, just like everybody else would be and probably are. Um, but having that skepticism for me, I actually started doing the research myself and read up on certain things about the medicine. And the thing that struck a chord with me was that it was proven to have regenerative properties for the brain. And so for me, that was like, whoa, okay, what is that? So I kind of dove into that world and started doing the science and the nerdy stuff as well, trying to figure out what that really represented. And then obviously I had like an aha moment with the concussion stuff, the CTE stuff for me. Like there's been studies done, and there was a study a couple of years ago where they discovered that out of 111 brains that they were able to research and see if CTE was present, 110 were present. So I mean, everybody's pretty much affected if they play this game for a certain amount of time. Not even on an NFL level, but just I mean, little kids in high school, college, and those guys are monsters. They're trying to kill each other on the field. So to think about all the trauma and the concussions and stuff that happened with those guys and happens with those guys is scary. So for me, like I've always been kind of on it anyway. I've been a little nervous, a little weary, a little um, wanting to stay up on it and get ahead of the curve with it. So I've been doing I was doing before this a lot of MRI stuff, a lot of head stuff, a lot of cognitive stuff, a lot of cognitive testing, stuff like that to just stay sharp and make sure my brain was still firing on all cylinders. And then hearing about this and having having it have a deeper turn of like really saying like we can regenerate brain activity.
That's
That's
big
a big
news.
thing.
There's not many
'Cause
things that can do that.
No, other stuff is just like you're just kind of taking these measures to make sure you don't free fall down this cliff at a rapid pace, right? Like it's going to happen for the most part. So to have something say that we can do this, it's like, okay, that's enough for me to at least check it out and see. And so that was the initial. And then after I got that initial buzz of, okay, that's cool, I think I'll try it now. Really going there and knowing that I wanted to put in work as far as also developing me and being the best version of myself and cleansing some of the stuff that I had going on at my time when this was all happening. So to have all those things kind of fall in line together, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. So I was really, really intrigued by it that way.
So just for our listeners, can you explain a little bit what CTE is and
Yes.
how that relates to NFL football and
Yeah.
concussions and all that?
Yeah, so CTE it's chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and it's repeated. Yeah, you like that, right? It's
That's a
repeated.
Time's fast.
Yes, I probably can't say it again. So that was it. One take wonder.
That's it. That's all we get.
And so it's caused by repetitive head trauma. So with football players, obviously we're gladiators. We attack each other all the time, and it's constant hitting, constant just constant blunt trauma to the head. And so that's pretty much where it stems from. And
Also, just because I'm a major football fan, I love.
Is that why you two are such good friends then? Is that what it was?
I've totally played it cool around him this whole time.
I just want to be friends with Kerry.
It's like,
That's
I never
it.
even knew about your career. No, he's an amazing player. But I also love rugby. And I think that there's a point to be made about the issue with football specifically, because rugby players, our biology protects our head. at all costs. It is the thing that makes us function, right? Rugby players' bodies, you watch them when they play, they never lead with their head because you can't. Their head's unprotected.
True.
They don't have a helmet. Then you guys have what, a 12-pound, whatever,
It's
a
heavy.
heavy helmet, and it makes you feel invincible. It makes you feel like you actually so you just see on the game how the body even, in training whatever, if you train without leading with your head, in the moment, on the field, aggression, all the things that are going on in the split second of real time, it's like duck and go,
It's
and
just the automatic reaction. That's kind
those
of how
hits,
you do it.
yeah, those
It's
hits
funny.
are so much
You
more
know,
insane.
it's funny you said something about rugby because my later years, so probably like 6, 7, 8, like around that time, we actually had rugby teams come to try to teach us how to tackle. Yeah, it's
I
funny.
think that's
No, really.
exactly. I
No,
mean,
for
I
sure.
feel like the kids should be taught by rugby players, like so that it's in their muscle memory that when they go on to play in the NFL, because we don't want NFL to ever stop because we love the NFL. But like practice without helmets, like that. I mean, you need to know the weight of it too, for sure. But having the body be so, I learned piano. Your piano here, see that? Like the fingers play themselves after you've done enough repetition,
Muscle memory,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I think this is something that a lot of people, I played soccer growing up, so
Same.
more European. It's kind of like you have more finesse, and the NFL is really representative of that sort of like American gladiator manifest destiny perspective. It's kind of the pinnacle of sports in that way, where it's
Right.
just like big dudes going at it, fucking shit up, and now it's like there's finally more and more awareness from like the NFLPA and
Right.
from the actual league, where they're now changing
Yeah.
rules so that it becomes at least a little safer.
They're trying
Right?
to change the rules to make it safer, but it's just a game that's not going to be safe. I mean, it's too we're too big, we're too fast. I mean, even now, like the receivers are. I mean, I was a big guy when I played. I was a little bit bigger. I was probably like 220, and I'm like 210 now. But I mean, that's an average wide receiver now. Like in the past, 220 pounds was a center. Like like when you go back to like we've just progressed as we've just evolved so much as a human being and as an athlete and and the stuff that we're capable of doing. So it's just not going to be safe. And even on the soccer level, like even now with kids, they're not letting kids do the header. They're keeping that stuff out. So they're trying to
Oh,
protect heads at all costs. Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing all the stuff that's just starting to come out that we're learning about. It's like these second and third order consequences that we just, when we started all this stuff, we didn't realize how harmful it was
Yeah.
to our human body. And then we were talking about this just before. It's like this intuition that the body develops, right? That really helps to keep us safe. I'd love to just, hear you talk a little bit more about that. What's that process been for you going through the trauma that you went through, healing that trauma? How has, your own relationship to your body helped you with that process?
Well, first, thank you for a great question. But to that point, having a relationship with your body is key. So I was severely disassociative from the neck down. There was no connection, integration between my mind and my body. The I spent 7 years diving into meditation, mindful practice, education on the brain itself, being obsessed with neuroscience and learning every single facet I possibly could without, actually going to higher education for it. Which now I'm actually in a neuroscience academy right now doing for certification for a certificate, just like a 10-week program. And just like absolutely obsessed with the brain. So there clearly even that is an intuitive thing, knowing that there was I'm piecing puzzle pieces together. Why am I doing that? Because something was missing, right? Why am I obsessed with the brain? That's where my memories were trapped. All these little things are actually intuitive little pointers, like directing you in a certain direction. But with the ayahuasca and the way the body will also resist experiences that it believes to be unsafe, I had this just visceral reaction to not just the medicine, which I did, but my friends afterwards, like, screw you guys for making me do this. Like, I was angry. And I
You
mean,
laugh about it now,
they were all a
but
little scared of me. Like, you didn't see this. This is the behind the scenes footage. I was like, I'm gonna stab you. No, but so this would go on to play itself out in other incidences as well, that I would have a little bit more awareness consciously of what was happening, but not in the moment. I would have treatment, PTSD treatment, and the morning of or the night before, I'm like, I'm going to cancel my appointment for tomorrow. I've just had a long week. I'm tired. I don't really feel like getting up in the morning. Like I would have a million subconscious little filler thoughts that were flying in to let me know, don't go, don't do this to us. Don't find out what you're going to find out. And it's crazy. I mean, there's so much that we can't yet measure. You know, we couldn't even conceive that we could have devices that you talk into and they put your voice on a recording and people can listen to it around the world 100 years ago, 200 years ago, however, long. So there's so much that we can't measure. And there is a collective intuition, I believe. There's certainly an intuition of the body, mind, integrated self when it is cut, when it's literally severed the way it was for me. It's kind of like the surgery called that severs the corpus callosum. So when survivors, when victims of corpus callosum, my competitive side comes out. Severe epilepsy can literally be the death of the sufferer, right? It can actually cause head trauma, like if they're not protected and they hit their head, whatever the case. So in very severe cases of epilepsy, they will sever the corpus callosum, which is the connector between the hemispheres of the brain. So it's the little bridge between left and right brain. So what happens, and they've done testing, and it's really interesting, where they'll close the left eye to access the right brain, and the right eye to access the left brain, and they'll show the left eye for the right brain access an image, but that's not the linguistic side, right? The left brain is the linguistic side. So they'll show an image of a cat or a chicken or whatever, and then they'll close the left eye and then access the left brain with the right eye and say, what do you think of when you see a farm? And they're like, well, a chicken immediately. It's the first thing that they say in the test. And then the practitioner asks why. And the brain creates a whole story as to why it thought of chicken, right? And I think that we tell stories, and like I said earlier, it can be beautiful or terrifying depending on the story you're telling. But we get an impression in our body, and if we don't know what to do with it, we make up a story about it, right? So for me, I made up this story that ayahuasca was evil because I didn't feel good in my body. When I'm going to go to EMDR and I'm about to have a breakthrough, because breakdowns lead to breakthroughs if you do the work, there's a moment of resistance that's saying, bad, bad, bad. The resistance triggers the thought triggers the linguistic brain to attach to the thought if you aren't being mindful. And the linguistic brain says, let me tell a fantastic narrative about this terrible feeling. Ah, yes, EMDR is bad. We shall not go today. I'm not sure why my inner monologue is British, but it is. It always is a pretentious British person for some reason.
That was a past life. That was a past life for you, right?
It was a past life for sure. So, so my British inner self says we're not going, and so basically, I have consistently experienced this over this course of time since we drank. So it's 2019 now. We filmed this documentary in 2017, right? So it's been over 2 years. I set all of these intentions going in for it. I was like, I'm not going to miss out on anything if I'm going to do something like this. And literally never drank, never took drugs, never smoked a cigarette, water to ayahuasca. I was saying earlier, literally as far as I could possibly
It's been the name of the podcast, Water to Ayahuasca.
Water to ayahuasca. Same for Kerry. I mean, you had alcohol, right? A little juice, a little alcohol, a little Jesus juice, a little Kool-Aid. In the South, we call that Jesus juice. Get my wine. But so yeah, and my intuitive body, how could I possibly, if I was severely disassociated, like literally imagine your inner self being decapitated. I was severed at between body and mind at the neck. And so how would I ever even register things? Things had to be really intense for me to register them, in the mind. The somatic body would have to register something. I was so desensitized in my physical self. I cut up my arms, I was suicidal. When I was self-harming, it was to feel something at all. I felt dead inside, and that was due to the lack of integration and of mind and body. So I'd done all this work with meditation. I had done all of this inner journey, like inside the mind, but at no point had I connected the body to the mind. Well, ayahuasca takes over your whole being, but very specifically, the body has quite a journey and quite a plays quite a role, right?
And what was that like for you in the actual experience
I
then?
think I said it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was awful. I hated
You're like,
it.
"I haven't felt any of this
Oh,
in so long,"
it
right?
was yes, and so suddenly I'm feeling the inside of my body and places where dangerous, horrible things were trapped, and where they had only been experienced from a little booba, like a little tiny AnnaLynne who had no way of accessing a linguistic brain to make sense of anything, had no way to even tell a story about it, didn't wanna know the story, just knew that the people that she loved, trusted, and looked up to because she was little and they were big and you're supposed to do that, used everything innocent and pure and loving and wonderful about her against her in the worst and most atrocious ways. So why would anyone wanna feel that? Why would you ever want that? So there was a sense of going to hell with ayahuasca, and my intuitive self was saying, "F this," you know? And what it's led to is this complete reverse where I now know that if I feel nothing, that must mean I feel a hell of a lot. So I have to dive into that, and that's where the work comes in. So for me, when the intuitive body is for me and it's hard because some people get anxious, and that's an obvious resisting sensibility, right? It's still hard to do the work, period. But I get the sense of, "Oh, I feel great. Let's go to the mall. Let's go on a drive. Oh, I'll go hang out with people who have traumatized me. That's fine. I actually feel nothing." Nothing is something.
'Cause we're numbing at that point,
Yes,
right? We're
yeah.
numbing.
So ayahuasca, basically, as I told my doctor, "I have fixed myself from here to here, from the neck up. There is something wrong because my cycles were repeating." And ayahuasca, if you invite it to, it'll take you to the place that you most need help, and it will just blaring flashing lights, "Look at this." So,
It's like a hurricane, right? We're saying
like a
earlier, like the
hurricane,
truth is
the
like a
the
hurricane. It'll just
truth
rip
hurricane.
off that facade that we've been telling ourselves that the ego has been playing again that story. And that I think that's the protective mechanism of the little girl inside who was, traumatized and that was necessary for you to survive.
Absolutely,
Right. And then coming into this, it's helpful, it's
for
super,
sure.
super helpful. Um, Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing
Of
that.
course,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was great. So with you, Carrie, what have your experiences been like? So now you went to Rythmia for the first time in 2017. It was more or less the first time that you had ever worked with something that was, significantly psychoactive. And now, you've been going back here and there. What's your process been like?
It's been for me like it was from day one, like very enlightening for me. Very I was very receptive to it. I have no idea why. I mean, obviously I knew I wanted to go for my own inner reasons and some of those things were for me just really diving into my lineage and if I had like darkness in my heart, like was I a mean guy? Was I angry? Was I super aggressive? Like I wanted to know all these things for, just not in this body in this lifetime, but just as long as I've been around, like my existence, like how have I been going all the way back to those times? So like I really dove in and I was really, really, like I said, receptive to not being in control. And for me, control was everything. Like control. Like and it was so crazy because it was so conducive to the lifestyle that I lived at that time. When I, mean, I was a 22-year-old kid in New York City, running around the city with money and fame and whatever I wanted, it was there for me. Like it was nuts. So being able to control that environment around me, I had to just do it my way. And if it wasn't my way, it was literally the highway. Like I couldn't see you. Like I couldn't be around you because I needed to feel safe, what I thought was safe in my environment, right? And so it was all about control. So being able to go to this place in Rythmia in Costa Rica in the jungle with these people who I've never dealt with before, only knowing Anna and knowing our producer friends when we went there, I'm just like,
Mhm.
all right. I'm doing it. I guess I'm doing this, right? You know, so like really going there, I was like, okay, if I'm here, I'm gonna do it. And that's one of the things with me personally. Like once I'm committed to a goal or committed to some kind of outcome or committed to some type of experience, I'm going in and
It's the warrior in you, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the work.
Yeah.
So I went there.
Leading with the head.
I'm in there. Like literally, like it was
better
the
or
opposite. Like
worse,
it was totally
right?
like I was like, I'm in, I'm in. And then sitting there, there's a funny scene in the medicine where a lot of people, I mean, everybody laughs, but like I said, nothing's been in my body, right? So I'm like, okay. But so they offer me rapé. And I'm like, yeah, sure. It's like we're sitting just like this. He's sitting there, I'm sitting right here, and Carlos is sitting here. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm gonna do it, right? And so he comes over and he blows the rapé in my nose, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Literally blown. Like this is open. I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the trees. The trees is like, hey, Kerry, how you doing? I'm like, oh, okay. I see you too. And it's like instantly I started like I was crying, I'm sweating, I'm feeling these emotions. I'm like, what? Because emotions for me, that was disgusting at the time. I couldn't go there. Like, what is that? Like for me being the warrior, the football player, having this lifestyle of you can't be compassionate, you can't be empathetic. That doesn't work. It
It's a
doesn't.
weakness, right?
It's not a
Vulnerability
weakness.
is a
It doesn't work.
weakness.
It doesn't work on that platform, on that level of success as being one of the top tier football players. It just doesn't work, right? And so being able to have those feelings immediately with something was like, even though it was scary, it was frightening at the time as well. Like it was frightening. It was amazing. I had all these had all these emotions that were just kind of pouring out like naturally, and I was like, I want to feel that. I want to see. I want to go back and dive and see what that stuff is. And so it just kind of opened me up right away. But so that happened. Then the ayahuasca ceremony happens, and we're sitting there and we're taking this god awful
I mean,
brew
you don't
because
like it? You don't like it?
it doesn't taste good.
Not great.
It doesn't
No.
taste good, right?
No. And it gets worse every time you drink it. It gets worse.
Yeah, it's
oh, even
yeah.
just like reading about it, I want to like, a little
bit of that, like yeah. So I mean, having like taking the first sip, like I said, I was all in, but when I took the sip, I was like, okay, this is a lot. It was hard. It was actually hard to go down. I was like, okay, it went down. Okay, I took it. I'm in. And you go back and sit in your little section, you're on your bed and on your corner, you kind of sit there and you kind of, especially my first time, you're kind of looking around, you don't know what's going on. You're like, okay, did everybody drink? Is it just me? Is it a game? Is somebody playing a game on me? You're having like this whole thing. People are like, everybody's in their own worlds.
Like doing
Yeah.
this weird shit with my hand.
You're just sitting there. And and it all happens for different people at different times. And so it's not like a joint thing. So like you're just sitting there and people could be already making noises in the background or already purging, and you're just sitting there like, is it going to work on me? And you don't know. You just have to be open to it and just really, really like trust what you're doing and trust the process. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, man, like I said, I've never experienced this stuff on a psychoactive level, and so to sit there and all of a sudden I hear like almost like this noise like kick in. I was like, oh, okay, something's happening. And I kind of like just look around and see like these prisms and lights start to happen, and the clock is moving. I'm like, okay, I'm in this. Like I'm really
This is now
in it.
happening,
I'm in
right?
it.
This is now
I'm
happening.
in
There's
it.
no
I'm in it.
getting
There's no
out.
turning back.
No
man.
turning
There's no
back.
turning
Hunter
back.
Hunter Thompson once said, once you buy the ticket, you got to take the
Oh
ride.
no, you gotta take the
right?
ride.
You gotta.
But so like having that first like instance, I was like, oh wow. I actually had to tell myself, I was like, you came to do the work. You're not in control. You know that. Just breathe. It's okay. I had to literally give
I
myself.
wish
a
you
pep
had
talk.
said that out loud.
I literally said that to myself to get myself back to like, okay, now I'm in it. And then, man, just the process happened. It was so beautiful for me. Like the initial thing, I did see like a dark entity walk by, like kind of in the room, and I was just didn't pay attention to it. I just saw it and didn't acknowledge that I saw it, but didn't go there. But after that kind of passed by, I was just kind of sitting there and I just experienced bliss and experienced so many different visions and signs and stuff like that, man, just that were all pointing and all leading to the place I was wanting to go and wanting to experience, like with my intentions. And so all that stuff kind of happened. But the one story, AnnaLynne, we were talking about over there before we hopped on, was I had this really, really pressing issue with love and really connecting with it on a relationships, like on a relationship romantic level. Um, but so when I purged into the bucket. And when I when I purged in the bucket, I look in the bucket, and there's like a fetus in the bucket. I'm like, yeah, that's weird. I literally look in, and and every time I would look or get closer, it would try to pull me in. So like almost like this gravitational pull towards the fetus. And I was like, I can't do that. I wasn't brave enough at that point to go in. And so after the first ceremony, you do a healing, and Taita asked, like, how was the ceremony? I was like, yeah, it was great. I saw all these visions. I saw all this stuff that was amazing. It was beautiful. I was like, I did have this one moment where I purged in the bucket and I saw a fetus. And he's like, oh, that's great. And I was like, really? Is that great? Oh, I thought that was bad. Like, I had that feeling. And so he's like, yeah. He's like, that's great. You had a moment at childhood that needs to be addressed or looked at. There was some kind of moment in your life. There was a cold moment in your life as a child. And I was like, that makes sense. He's like, so if it happens again, because I did the ceremony back to back that first time, and you didn't do the second
I
time.
was
Yeah.
like, I'm not
Yeah.
doing that.
I've had enough for now.
Right. So he's like, if it happens again, just go there and see what happens. Okay. I was like, all right. I said, I doubt it happen again, but yeah, if it happens, I will. Second ceremony rolls around. I take the medicine. I purge in the bucket. It's there. The fetus is there again. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going in. I literally, so like, if you were looking at me, I'm in the bucket. Like, I'm in there.
6'4",
Right.
220 pounds, all of Kerry Rhodes
In the bucket.
fucking puke
In the
bucket.
puke. Literally, like because after the ceremony, like this is how I know. My headband, I had a headband on a bandana. It was a little stuff on, a little residue.
You're purging.
Exactly. But so I hop in. I hop in the bucket. It's like, poof, and it connects. It's like almost like a movie scene. Like it cuts to. I wake up. I'm a baby in the crib, looking out the crib, and I see my parents, my spiritual parents or ancestors or somebody walking around the crib, and I'm crying like hardcore, like just bawling, and nobody would pick me up, and it hit me. It was so real. Like I get emotional talking about it because it was one of those things where I was like, I know I felt that in my life, and I know what that meant. But at that moment, like really going there and nobody picked me up, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like I can do this. I can take care of myself. And physically put my thumb in my mouth, and I stopped crying, and it was like almost like aha, yeah, this is what it is. You've been waiting for people to pick you up. You've been waiting for people to love you in a way that you thought you needed to be this, to be the carrier that you want to be, to express yourself, to open up and do these things. Like you've always waited for somebody else to do that for you, and you felt that if people were there, doesn't matter how bad it was or how toxic it was, if they showed up, they loved you, like they were there to pick you up. And that just for me, that was the worst. It's the worst thing you can ever do. But that's for anybody. Like if you're feeling that you need somebody else to pick you up or complete you to make you happy, that's the absolute wrong place to be in, and the wrong mindset to have. But for me, I really like felt that to the core, and that was just not romantically, but everything around me. Like if you were there, then you were there. You love me. You're going to show me physically you're there. Not being the best version of yourself, not being a great person, just be there. And I was able to have that moment of, okay, you don't need that. You can love yourself. You love yourself first, and you take care of you, and you get on that journey of redemption and really, really, really cleansing yourself to be the best version of yourself. And for me, once I had that happen and those things take place, for me, it was life changing. Yeah.
So, a commonality between both of you, and I think a commonality with all of us who have done this work is the sense of felt love that we just don't have
Right.
more or less in this world. And it's also it's a thing around intimacy and an ability to be intimate, an ability to be vulnerable and be in that position where it's like, yeah, there are times where as like a warrior,
Right.
like you need to have that mindset of going after things, but there's also a sense of like being okay with vulnerability and being able to like settle into that,
And the great thing
right?
about what you just said right there is it wasn't until I wasn't my best self until I realized that that person, the person that was the warrior, the person that was uh, operating in that level to succeed and be the person that he was at that time, was still a good person and very, very valuable person to who I am. Like, that's me. But being able to understand that the other side of it as well, being the compassionate person, being the empathetic person, being the person that really operates in the now, in this world, in the person that I am now, having those two balances and connecting with that person was the ultimate healing for me because I thought that person was bad. Person wasn't bad, he was just confused and not on a level to comprehend and operate the way he does now. And so bringing those two together and merging those people who are me together has made me the best version of myself now.
Yeah, and it's that process, right? We have to love all past versions of ourselves
Absolutely.
because that's the journey that led us to becoming who we are
Mhm.
at this very moment.
But that's so hard to do because who teaches you that? You get taught math and science and PE, but who teaches you self-love? Where every story that we tell in society, culture, parents, religion, peers, all the stories that they're telling us when we arrive here with a clean slate, pure and ready to take in the world is okay, you're a boy, so you have to act like this. You're a girl, so that means this. Your name is this. You don't get to decide what you're called. Someone else decides that for you. All of these labels that are put onto you. Why would you love the thing they created? It's not you anyway. So which one are you and how do you find that? And who tells you how? And how do you even know to know that you that you aren't what you think you are, right? And I think that it's really profound what you said, Carrie, about, about the merging of those two selves, this integration. It always comes back to integration, right? So that's kind of the experience for me as well, this mind and body integration for you, this warrior lover integration, right? And what does that look like and how do we get there and what are the one, two, three ABCs of it all, you know? And I think that's something that there's there's this kind of I've noticed it with people who are on the spiritual path, there's my British person again. Um, I guess it's like whenever I'm cynical or something, I'm sorry, England.
Well, the Brits are pretty cynical,
They
so I
are,
think
and we love them for
that
it because it
aligns.
makes
That
us
makes
laugh.
sense.
But so, yes, so I think there's this concept of detaching from the stories that we tell, which is so important, right? But children don't tell stories. They're just experiencing the world through their bodies, right? They don't have the brain, the higher developed brain that can tell stories of things. So they feel things biologically. When you talk about think waiting for someone to pick you up for love, baby Carrie did need that. Baby Carrie does need to be picked up and held and soothed so that he learns how to appropriately self-soothe, right? We have coddling and helicopter parents, and then we have dismissive avoidant parents, and all these things are the science, right? So if you look at love from the standpoints, an integrated standpoint, right? Of love as we need it for our spiritual essence, self, soul, whatever you want to call it, but also love attachment in the sense of science and biology. A baby is hardwired, a human baby is hardwired to attach to mommy or to primary caregiver. Because if baby doesn't attach to mommy, baby won't have the connection to this life source that keeps baby alive. Therefore, baby will die.
Survival.
Survival at its most base level form, right? So Carrie needing to be picked up is also Carrie baby wondering, what if no one picks me up? What if no one feeds me? What if I die? So we take baby Carrie feelings into adult life. What if someone doesn't come here? What if someone doesn't show up for me? What if I die? So we don't consciously process that because it was never consciously in our mind because we didn't have a conscious mind. when it first came into our body and our somatic self, right? So, what is so essential as we are on a spiritual journey to detaching from the matrix, which is fantastic. Byron Katie, a very first person very close to me, recommended the book Loving What Is. Changed my life absolutely forever and ever and ever. Detaching from the stories we tell is so crucial. But do not do that until you validate baby Carrie for yourself, baby AnnaLynne, baby Paul, baby whoever's listening. Like you, and this is what it looks like. I always do this with my friends. I'm like, okay, everybody, if you're driving, don't do this, but close your eyes, take a deep breath, kind of settle into yourself, right? And just get a solid image of baby AnnaLynne, baby Carrie, baby Paul, like young child self. Maybe even the moment when you realized you weren't a kid anymore and that you had to grow up too fast, whatever that is. And see that version of yourself and really look into his or her eyes and say, I know you didn't feel safe. I know you didn't feel the love that you deserve to feel because you're perfect and you're made of love. But you're a big person now and you are safe and I love you. And you will never feel that way again because I am here. And if I was there during that time, I would have rescued you out of that pain. And we don't do that for ourselves. We don't validate this little child that if we could see it outside of ourselves as an actual child, we would have so much empathy. If it walked into the room right now, all of us would be, oh, he's so cute. It would start talking and interrupt the recording, but we wouldn't care because it's a child. And they're innocent and they're pure and they're present. So when you invite in your inner child and you treat that child as you would someone that's not you. So often I do a lot of TED Talks in colleges, I speak at colleges and stuff, and I always ask the crowd, everybody raise your hand if you would be friends with the voice inside your head if it was a real person. Nobody raises their hands. It's so funny. What? Because this diatribe from society and culture and the world around us has made it impossible for that little child to walk in the room and feel okay to even be in the room. And we say, "Yeah, you're not." Just what they said. "Stay away, little kid." And this is not a man or woman thing. This is not a gender non-description thing. This is a human thing. This is a biological thing. A child needs to feel valid in its existence in the world so that it can grow up and be a human adult who validates not only themselves, but the people around them and adds a sense of valuation of what real value is to our world and therefore the story at large, right? So for me, I do it all day long. I have a 6-year-old me that I see very clearly. I have a 13-year-old me who does not like me sometimes. She's got a lot of opinions. I think she's tougher than I am. She thinks I'm a little bit of a pussy sometimes. Sorry. It's just true. And then I actually have two future selves. I have two adult versions of AnnaLynne, like 45 years old and 85 years old, and they strangely look very young. They've maintained
You'll
themselves
stay young forever.
really well.
Yeah.
But I literally, they're my family. And I go inside myself and I spend a lot of time in aloneness without being lonely now because I literally have these anchors of these individual selves that because I see them as individual, I can love them easier because it's so hard to just love me, right? And then I remember they are me. So I am loving myself. So if you're able to do that while moving towards or even before, like, if you're listening and you have never considered ayahuasca or these spiritual concepts, but you can do that, you are on the path towards healing yourself, healing the world from the inside out. That is something that I found. And I, like I said, I have a family wherever I go because when AnnaLynne, 32-year-old AnnaLynne is tired, I just imagine myself laying in the arms of my older, still very young looking selves. And they caress my hair and my mind conjures all of this up. The mind is so profound. You cut up your arm or whatever. And whether at the time it used to be, on purpose, but even if you get a cut, the brain heals itself, right? The body heals itself. So I don't have to be like, coagulate the blood, scab over. I say this all the time.
Well, this is like we are our own healers, right? And so when we go into these experiences with ayahuasca, right, what's so important is that we have this container where we feel safe and we feel like we can totally release, because ultimately the role of a shaman or the role of a healer or the role of a therapist or even a doctor should be to empower
Yes.
us to do that work, because it's all within us.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what we're not taught,
It should
right?
activate our healer inner self, our creator and healer, right? In different religions, you're taught you're made in the image of a god or deity, right? But they're creators, so that makes you a creator. They're healers, so that makes you a healer. They're lovers, so that makes you a lover. They're if that is the belief that you know, subscribe to, for me, God is love. So anything that feels like love, that is not fear, that is not darkness, that is not things that make us feel icky on the inside. That's what love is, and I am love. So take that however you want it to be, but there's a divine sense of yourself, and to your point, to your point, Carrie, the self-soothing and knowing that you could love yourself, like, we can literally heal ourselves, and w going back once again to the biology and attachment and romance and love and family, the way it's perceived, whether DNA or spiritual, what have you, community is a secondary requirement of being human in our species. It's how we survive, right? So then looking at the standpoint of healing myself, but I'm also not trying to be a monk. We love you guys. We need you to meditate in our planet, but most of us need a sense, and they have a sense of community within themselves, but a lot of us need community in the sense of family, friends, partner, what have you. And then that's the next tier. And then it's being in this room and looking around and seeing little Paul. Like, I see you as an adult, but when I'm talking to you, I wanna make sure that young Paul inside knows he's not judged. I accept him fully for who he is, because I accept young AnnaLynne for who she is. And there's nothing you could do that would be wrong or strange or weird. I mean, I might tell you what I think about it, but you're welcome to continue doing it. Feel free to do cartwheels. Paul's doing cartwheels right now, guys. It's so
That's not
strange.
true.
Yeah, handstand and all. Yeah, that's crazy.
But seeing, I mean, if we walked outside instead of seeing all these people as, you know, potential threats or whatever it is, if we saw little children walking around inside of these if they were transparent exteriors with a little kid inside, we'd have a lot more empathy for the world around us. And then our way to connect in a community. And you were talking about, I don't know if you want to talk about San Pedro, but no. Yeah. But you were talking about having other spiritual experiences, and and the sense of having something that's an individual journey, and then also having something, the power of having something that's a shared journey. Like, both are really important to different parts of our healing. We can't heal others and we can't experience healing from others if we haven't healed ourselves first, right? We can expand on our healing once we connect with others. But if we seek out healing externally, then we will need external healing.
Yeah, it starts with embodiment, right? It starts with like holding that, and then the way you show up, right? It's oftentimes, you know, when we go do ayahuasca, it's kind of like, well, you don't need to tell everyone about it. It's like what you were saying about Colette. She just came back and she was changed, and you got that, and you saw that, and you're like, I want that energy.
Right.
I'm like interested in that energy. Where did it come from? And that is ultimately like that attracting force, that attracting energy is how people quote unquote should come into this, because it's authentic and it's whole and it doesn't feel forced or like, oh, you know, dragging my feet getting in there. It feels like, okay, now is my time, and I feel called to it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I talked about this a little bit. I think I talked about at the last screening. But it's because everybody's individual journey is different, right? We had the medicine, we got introduced to the medicine, and we think it's great. And we think, I think everybody should experience it in their lifetime. I mean, it's up to you, but I really strongly think that, you know, it's a good thing and you should try it. I really think that. But I also think that you have people that are on that journey and on that path and live that certain way, and they force their agenda or force their dealings or their healings or their experiences on people that don't want that. And I think that's where it gets dangerous. And that's the part where we have to live authentically and show how it's how it's changed our lives for the better and live in that light and live that way. Kind of just by example, just lead that way, but not press the agenda on anybody. So you give the information, you share your experiences, you let people know that there are other like-minded people out there that kind of feel that same sentiment, and then you go on. And I think it's very dangerous of us as people that have been on that journey and are enlightened and have this different version of what this world can be like and where we can go to have that type of knowledge and not just actively seek it, but show it and show who we are in that way, just by living, just by being us, not by forcing it. We have to be careful. We can't judge the people that aren't on that journey because they're going at their own pace and they're not ready for that yet, and that's
They were us
fine.
5 years ago.
Exactly. And so people get to the you have these people that are really holy and really high and like everybody should be doing this or they're not living right. Like that's just not the approach either. You just have to really, really, really just live authentically and live through love and spread it that way. And hopefully they get the message because people like Anna, who's doing so many different things out in the community and going over to where's your Cambodia and spreading love and to girls who have been, abused and sexually abused and human traffic and stuff. I mean, having people like that in the world and people that are really, really actively chasing the light and trying to spread light to just not herself, myself, yourself, but to a wide range of people and understand that we're all human. We all breathe the same breath. We are the same breath. And once you realize that's the real factor of it all. Like when you get to the point of understanding that there's no race, there's no color, there's no gender. It's all about us as people, as humans, one breath, one single breath, really getting back to that essence. And the essence of all of that, what is that? That's love. We've all been created out of love, and that's where we need to get back to. And I think that's the message I would hammer home to anybody that's really, really thinking about this and intrigued by this and really, really wanting to live your higher self. Just operate from that level and keep the judgment to a zero.
And
Yeah.
to that point, you said get back to a couple times, and I think that that's actually something to really focus on. This is not we were talking about this earlier. This is not a, cure all. This is not a but getting back to if you have a crazy moment and you get angry and you feel grief, you have a loss, you're going to feel all of those emotions.
And that's very key. Yeah, because people think, yeah, once you're at this operating at a different level, now you don't feel those things. No, you still feel those, but you're able to have the tools to get back. And
You're
that's the thing. Yeah.
100%, and it's all the conscious awareness of as it's coming in, say, "I see you, anger. Okay, anger." I love Jack Cornfield. He's amazing. He's such a hero of mine. And he's like, "Okay, anger. Okay. Angry, yes. Angry, angry, angry. Okay. Whoa, ooh, rage. Yes, rage. Okay. Oh, lots of rage. Okay, rage." And it's almost looking at your emotions once again with the eyes that you would look at a child and being like, the monster is real, huh? It's under your bed. Yeah. And it comes out when no one else is there. That makes a lot of sense actually, because I've never seen it. And it's not saying that these things are they're not only are they valid, they are the most human things. We if you believe in the spirit, soul, consciousness, self, then you know that the only part of our entire journey where we get to feel is when we choose to come to earth. And we feel pain, but we also get to feel love. We get to feel someone give a little squeeze. We get to feel something. That for me, like living a life where I felt numb and dead inside for all this time, why was I not in the stars? I came on this planet to feel something, to be able to feel what I knew of myself in the energy of the timeless eternity, what have you. It was to feel love at its highest capacity with sense, with the five senses and maintaining, our multisensory self for sure. But like that's the gift of being a human is feeling. And so good, bad, ugly, it's not about getting away. It's about integration, merging. Anger, beautiful. That makes me appreciate happiness. Sadness, beautiful. It makes me appreciate joy, right? And seeing that those married together make a whole human. and that it's a homeostasis. It's the temperature on the thermostat. I always say this. It's you set it at 74. If you live in Alabama or Georgia, honey,
It's 69.
it's 69. Okay, I like that number better. But if you're if you're in Alabama or Georgia, where we're from, you put it on 74 or 69 or whatever, it's gonna go up to 80, honey, and then it's gotta come back down. And if it's the winter, and I used to live in New York, you set it on 85, which is what I would have it on, it's gonna be it's gonna be a cool 69 in the winter, and you just gotta come back up. So it's a homeostasis, right? So it's about finding your center, and what that means is not that you live in this. Oh, there goes the British again.
Own it. You just
I'm
gotta
owning
love it.
You don't live in the center.
There's gonna be
everyone.
another like Anna that pops up pretty
Just
soon.
pops
That
up.
it's the British AnnaLynne.
British Anna. Got it.
She's moved to London.
5 with a cup of tea.
Exactly. I'm
She's
definitely
with the
55.
Queen.
The high tea with the Queen and I. No, but you don't live in the center. You explore the east and the west, and you come back to the middle ground, right? So the capacity, once again, going back to Byron Katie, her book, the title itself, loving what is. In this moment, anger. I love my anger. In this moment, return. Get back to the love, the center. Return to love. Yes, Marianne Williamson. So there's a sense of graciousness that you have to have. And it also is like, if send you a dictionary on Mandarin Chinese today. Well, Paul, did you learn Mandarin last night? I sent you the damn book. Like you're not going to learn it overnight. The brain is plastic, which is beautiful. It can learn through experience new skills. This is a skill. You're a soccer player, you're a football player. I am not an athlete at all. I have 2 left feet, but I have learned the skill of meditation, and I learn it every single day anew. It's a daily
It's
practice.
the beginner's mind, right?
Absolutely. And we see a little baby walk across I use children a lot as a reference. It's just you see a baby take their first steps, and everybody's like, ah, everybody's clapping, and people are sad that they missed it. We take a step towards ourselves and no one notices. We don't notice. No one claps for us. A baby step is a step. And if you've never taken a step like that before in your whole life, that's a giant step for mankind is what that is. That is a leap. And it's something that must be celebrated. I love Tony Robbins. He says, I'm going to his Date with Destiny in December. I'm so excited. But he says, celebrate the small wins. Celebrate wins. I love to win. I'm not going to lie. I love to win. I hate to lose. So I think that there's something that we need to be mindful of celebrating when it's a win. Did you turn something around today? Did you even just change your direction? Fuck yeah. You're a badass. Good for you. Did you step back and do exactly what you've always done? Totally normal. Good for you. You're probably going to do better tomorrow. This kind of, this sense of neutrality of whether, of not putting good and bad on the label, but letting what is be what it is really important too.
It's that process, right? Focusing on the process. Because even like for men like us, we get really oriented towards outcome and objective and like needing to be there. And that's a very masculine energy, and it's a very healthy energy if it comes from that grounded, centered place. And so yeah, I'm just totally.
Oh, absolutely.
I love that. I really love that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we operate from fear, right? Fear of not being successful, fear of failure, fear of what our peers are going to think, fear of what our partners are going to think. So if you operate from that place, you're always going to have an uphill battle to climb, right? You're always wondering, like, okay, I didn't take the trash out at 7:07. I was supposed to take it out earlier. Like, that's always going to be in the back of your mind, right? Like, that stuff that doesn't run away. That's there. And so you think everything that person is doing is because of that trash situation. Instead of addressing it and clearing and cleansing yourself from what that feeling and that attachment of fear is, we just operate from that instead of operating from, okay, I didn't take the trash out. I'll take it out. I'll have a conversation with her and clear the air and make sure that's all good from that point on. Instead of having that conversation, we automatically go into defense mode and be like, okay, she's not gonna be, she's gonna be mad anyway. So now I gotta feel this way. I gotta fight this way. I gotta tense up and be this version of myself now to,
Contract, right? We contract
yeah,
as a
let me
result
let
of
me
that.
protect myself.
Right.
And so instead of being open and just sharing that moment and being, like I said, operating from where we operate from now and having an understanding of that, it's just, it's not a healthy place to be. And so I think we're moving the pieces that way. And I operate from love all the time. Like I really feel really good about where I am as far as just being able to have a conversation with someone about things that I don't ag- I may not agree with and I may not understand, but if it's coming from you, that's a valid place. So let me
Yeah.
hear that. Let me hear that part out.
Yeah.
We have the conversation. I hear you. Even if it's not, even if we don't come to an agreement on it, I respect that and I understand that. And I know that that's where you feel. So let's explore that more. Let's see where that's coming from. Let's see where that conversation can go. See if I can have some different perspective on it later after I understand that. But just having those open conversations and really getting to that point, like I understand that. And I'm like, okay, we don't have to agree. That's fine. We
Yes.
don't have to
We
agree.
don't, the
It's
world
just
would not be
there.
colorful. We would have all
No.
like one color of everything. Everything's purple, everything's yellow. Like being able to, sorry. No, I just love what you were saying. I got excited. I got so excited. No, but it's like like, why would we want to agree with everything? We'd never learn anything new. It's so beautiful. I love
And
that
it's
you
just,
said
and
that.
it's just ego because we operate from what we know and what we've been predisposed to. And so you operate from that space. And then somebody comes in your space and you have to, okay, now let's have the conversations and let's see what happens. But without knowing this and not being the best version of yourself to be able to operate on that level, then it's a constant war. And that's the thing.
It is, and that's all fear-based energy. Where love is, fear cannot be. So if you're feeling like, "Oh, I was supposed to take out the trash, I didn't take out the trash," the defense mechanism that's protected you before, and thank you, defense mechanism, we appreciate you, now go along. The But that defense mechanism would then be like, "What did she not do? Uh, she left her plate on the coffee table. She didn't take her plate. Well, I didn't take out the trash. Yeah, but you're left leaving dirty dishes everywhere. Like, and what are we accomplishing, everyone?
Right.
Once
When we get
again,
in those defensive positions,
like,
it's just those hurt inner child that are
yeah,
like
yeah.
going
Well,
back and
you
forth,
were
right?
mean to me. I'll be mean to you.
Exactly.
I'm telling mom.
Exactly.
I'm telling mom first.
Right.
Like what? But something I do, I talk about a lot is solution based conversations, right? So when you are in something where we don't agree, we don't see things the same way. What is our point? What's the aim here? Am I aiming to get you to see that I'm right, which makes you wrong, which probably ain't gonna happen, especially if you're talking to me. No. But or is it how do we get to a higher level of this particular moment, right? So if you're in a partnership, for example, and the trash can and the dishes conversation is happening. What's happening right here? Okay, so you're fighting over the fact that someone didn't take out the trash and someone left dirty dishes. Why are you with this person? So that they'll take out your trash and make sure that dishes are not left around? Is that why you picked them off of Tinder and swiped right? Like, hopefully it wasn't Tinder.
Or are you having a bad day and this is your way to take it out on that person in a not so, I'm trying to think of the word here, in a not so dramatic way where you seem like you have a logical point, but it's really something that's going on inside of you
It's
that's
something
deeper than that.
internal. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
something internal. So I actually ask people a lot whenever there's a tip, because I have some wild ideations and philosophies that trigger the status quo and anybody who attaches strongly to them to then feel like I'm attacking them because I don't agree, right? So I if we get into it, and then I'll get into it with you because I want to hear your side, but I also want you to hear some little nuggets that I've learned too, and we're in that conversation, and if I see it going in that direction, the balance is tilting, we're not at center, right? I will ask, I'm like, what is your objective? And I'm not just asking them, I'm asking myself. AnnaLynne, what is your objective? Do you want this person to feel fear-based things? Do you want to feel fear-based things? Are we conjuring up some fear right now? Is that fun for everybody? What's the objective? put the address in the GPS so you know where you're going. I mean, getting here, if I didn't have a GPS, I would never have found you. And he had a GPS and almost didn't find you. But like, if you don't have an address, you can't go, you can get in a car all day long, but you're just driving around in circles. Where are you going? Where are we going? Is there a line between us or in front of us or behind us or on the sides of us? Where are we in the spectrum of the lines being drawn? And to what point? And then when you start asking questions like, "To what point and what's your objective?" And suddenly it's like, "Oh, I guess it's not really about a trash can situation, is it?" It's suddenly like, "Oh, okay." And yes, it's I'm hurt. I had a long day. I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Let's not talk about things when AnnaLynne is hangry, for example. Someone just put some food in my general direction and everything will be much better. But when I go left to center, right to center, whatever, when I'm not centered, it sometimes has to do because I didn't have lunch today and I'm hungry. So we don't know what the real thing is, but if we keep in mind, they say the forest for the trees, right? But being an actor, I use the sometimes you can't see the wide shot for the close up. You don't see the whole room because it's zoomed in on just a face and it's all the intensity of that, that experience being close up, that you don't see the room. You have to walk and have, what's around you and what can what's the rest of the movie? Do you get up after 10 minutes because you don't like where the story is going and you turn off the movie and you never get to the end? We have a long life. What is this moment? When you're 80 years old and you look back on your life, are you really going to be like, "You didn't take out the trash at 7:07 PM." And it was so ridiculous. I think it was 2019. It was a rainy day, if I recall, because it doesn't rain a lot now. That's not what you're thinking when you're coming to the end of your life and story here on this planet. That's a blip. It's a moment. And if we think of moments with the gratitude for them, but also for the awareness that they're a blip and they're not going to be there very long. When they're difficult, they're not going to be there very long. So don't worry about it. If you like them, enjoy them because they're not going to be there very long, right? So there's a sense of that. I think that we, again, not taught these things, but things like ayahuasca and things like that allow you to dive in. You start to undo the weave a little bit, and everything
Unravel.
unravels it. Yeah.
Unraveling. Well, one thing I do want to talk about before we wrap up, because we're getting there about, I'd love to talk a little bit about your professional work because you had mentioned, you know, how you're launching this meditation thing pretty soon. You run a nonprofit called Together One Heart. You had won a Congressional Medal of Honor for your work with sex trafficking. So I just would love to hear a little bit about, what role that's been in your life. And yeah.
Thank you for asking. You should have asked me this at the beginning because you're gonna run out of time. You'll just have to be like, "Shut up." I talk a lot already, but when you ask me about this stuff, I never.
Ask right
Carrie's
now.
like, Carrie's like, Carrie's like, "Ask me first. Ask me first." No, I promise I will try to keep it sweet and short and sweet. So yeah, I'm the president of Together One Heart. It's an anti-human trafficking organization supporting the ground team in Cambodia. I've been working with them for 10 years. I took over as president in 2016. It is my passion, my life's work. Everything that my life has led up to is definitely this work and being able to have the dream that I had as a 9-year-old little girl to be an actress turn into a platform for this. And it's not something that's like, "Oh, that's so great of you. You're such a good person." Once again, like it's something that I thought that I was going to go be a good person and do this, and it changed my life, and it has become the source of my healing in so many different ways. When I so after ayahuasca, my last intention that I set with ayahuasca was to know what I don't know to know. And we talked about this earlier, and it was just kind of something that I strongly don't recommend saying to a plant medicine ever. But if you're going to be brave, because you're going to see some stuff, within 13 months of having taken the journey in Costa Rica with Taita Juanito, who I'm forever indebted to, our amazing shaman, and then setting these 10 intentions that I had, that one being the last. Within 13 months, every single intention had come to pass. The final one being that in August of 2018, while undergoing EMDR, PTSD treatment, I remembered childhood sexual abuse for years and years and years that I had been completely blocked out. And systematic abuse, sadistic, mass, like sadist kind of like terrifying things you would hear on a documentary about like serial killers and serial rapists and horror films, and that it was the nature of that kind of thing. And had my body not relived it, which I did, I had convulsion body flashbacks like war veterans do. I would have a hard time believing that it actually happened to me, but it made sense with my life. It made sense with the work that I, had found. I got on a plane to Cambodia. Two of the girls I helped put through college for psychology became my 24/7 staff, my 24/7 care while I was there. I was in the center. I called the founder. I said, Somali mom's a founder, survivor of human trafficking. I said, I'm coming here not as the president, not as an ambassador or board member. I'm coming here as a little girl who needs to come to your center and be rescued. And and that's what it was. I was, I had her support. She's like, "Oh, no problem. I fix all the girls all the time. 5 minutes, I fix you, no problem." I'm like, "This is serious." And there that's just how she knows. She knows you cannot diminish a soul. You can't. That's just the way someone paints you. And then you get a new canvas when you reset. And that's what happened. And the peer-to-peer connection of being with other girls who were survivors of child sexual abuse and sex trafficking and incest and all these things. I was just another one of the girls. It wasn't some scary isolated island anymore. I was just another one of the girls. And so that whole thing had basically was like hitting the reset button on my life. So I had this crazy dream when I was a 9-year-old growing up in a trailer park to be an actress, and everyone told me it's never gonna happen. It was a pipe dream. And so I was like, screw y'all. And
Screw
and
y'all.
I made it happen, right? So I have a track record for making big unrealistic dreams come true. So that was that. And then this reset happened, and I feel like I've started over from scratch. And I've only felt one other time, and it was when I dreamed to be an actress, something so a sense of knowing so inside myself that I'm on track, I'm on the path, I'm on purpose for my life. And it is with this tour that we're launching in January 11th, National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. We are launching the Love Storm Tour. We're going to storm this planet with love. The idea is fighting human trafficking, fighting modern day slavery, educating on this issue. We can't treat symptoms, right? We have to go to the root cause. We need to end slavery from the inside out. That's what we have to do. And that means an internal cleanse to show us how to clean the outside of ourselves, the world we project. So it is a mass meditation and it is a love fest and it is going to be powerful and intense. And we're going to several different cities around the world. And I'm sure that will expand because you're going to help me and you're going to help me and you guys listening are going to help me because like, who doesn't want a storm of love? I mean, right? So we're launching that on January 11th, 2020 here in Los Angeles. And we will do the take the tour all around and we'll end in Cambodia on 10/10/2020 because that was I actually had a breath work. I saw all this as if it had already happened. It's kind of that's a whole nother podcast story for a whole nother day. But the incidentally, we didn't even realize it, but 10/10/2020 is International Mental Awareness Day, mental health awareness. So literally going from human trafficking and the slavery, and for me, it's not just slavery of the body, but slavery of the mind, to mental health, right? The healthiest state the healthiest we can become is when we're mentally sound, right? And because that means that what we put out in the world will be this sense of, a healthy sense of the projection of what we have inside ourselves. So really, really cool. I invite you to come. I would love for your support in any capacity, but it is the Love Storm Tour and it'll be Love Storm Tour on Instagram and, everybody will be able to follow it and stuff.
Great, beautiful.
Can
And
you say it in like this, like the love storm?
It's the
or with the
Love
British
Storm.
accent, maybe.
Oh, yes. So we're launching the Love Storm. It's going to be spectacular.
And Kerry, what are you working on now that you've been going through these shifts and changes? What's on the horizon for you? How are you taking this work that's impacted you and like bringing it out into the world?
Yeah, that's the big thing for me, man. I'm still figuring out the lane. Number one for me, it was to show men, because it's so much toxic masculinity in the world right now. So to show men how to be open, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, to be these versions of ourselves that we have never been, and especially me coming from the sport world, I'm sticking the olive branch out towards those guys and trying to have them jump on board without scaring them. Because if they feel scared, if they feel like it's it's a little bit too holy or too spiritual or whatever the case may be, it will scare them off. I saw an interview with Terrence Howard recently. He was speaking towards some of these things and very like he tried to sound really, really, really. He was doing it in a way that was aggressive, aggressively trying to put that putting it it's almost like I said earlier, like, it's putting an agenda out there to like, almost like a call of action, which is a little rough in certain circumstances. So for me, I'm trying to find a balance of what's too much, what's a way to get these guys comfortable and come on board and share, and I think the common denominator with that is just sharing my story in its truest form, in its most authentic form, and I've had people reach out and like, "Whoa, like, what have you done? Like, what's going on? Like, you're I'm interested in what that is, and I've had that happen, but I'm trying to make that happen on a bigger scale and very organic. So for me, I'm on that. I have a podcast now that I do. I have a TV show that I do as well, talk show. It's called Tackling Life TV, and it's with Carlos, my boy Carlos Campbell, who's a former football player as well from Notre Dame. But we have all these conversations with manly men, and we just hear their stories and hear where they came from. And it's funny, like you have all these um, instances of sexual abuse and sexual abuse for men as well, and no fathers, and having no men in their lives to show them how or show them how a real man operates. And so you have these stories, and the common denominator with that stuff is it happens a lot and people aren't talking about it. People are scared to share. And so having a space and seeing somebody like myself, who a lot of people respect from my previous profession, and being in a world where it is this hyper masculine place, to see me share the way that I share, they're seeing that it's okay. And I think once they feel that on a grander scale, it'll happen organically. So I'm trying to reach the masses in an organic way, and it's happening. People are coming on board. A lot of people are, and this is how I know it's the right way. It's happening without me having to extend the olive branch anymore.
And
Now
like force it, you know?
yeah, people are like, "Hey, that show you're doing, can I come on?" I'm like, "Absolutely."
That show
That's the
you're doing,
plan.
can I come on?
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Only if you speak in that British accent the whole time.
Oh, absolutely you will. But yeah, that's the thing. I think that's where I'm going with it. And I think I see the interest. I see the people that are really actively wanting to be better. And it's so many people that are hurting from my profession, my previous profession. And to show them that, like I said, it's okay. It's okay it's okay to cry. It's okay to share. It's okay to not have to be the big man in the room. It's okay to sit back and just and listen to people, but be heard and make that space safe. And the space is safe with me. So that's what I'm working on now, besides the work and the other stuff, which I don't really, we don't have to speak about that. But yeah, just that. I just want that.
Well, that's beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you both so much for coming here. It's a foggy LA day. You know, you had a little bit of trouble, but I've had such a wonderful time, diving into your stories and
Yeah.
the wisdom and the understanding and the experiences that you've both gone through is just it's special. So
We appreciate it. Thank you for having us
thanks.
on. And
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a beautiful, beautiful energy, beautiful space you created for us to come in and talk about these things. And I think that, you know, just from my inner little girl self, it's nice to from both of you, really, it's nice to be in the presence of men who are able to show that kind of love, where someone like me has felt like that love was kind of like wanting something. And there isn't with you. It isn't even moments that I've had with you this morning to like just feel genuine love for human to human connection. So thank you for that for this time.
Thank you.